Let's begin this hour in the state of Utah, where the suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination is due back in court today.
To the jail, are we ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Calling case 251-403-576, State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson.
Chaos erupts inside the courtroom as Charlie Kirk's accused shooter, Tyler Robinson, makes a violent attempt to flee justice during his second hearing. The scene turned brutal and unhinged. What was meant to be a quiet procedural session exploded into chaos, leaving the nation stunned and the case darker than ever before.
Well, the 22-year-old said nothing more. He showed no emotion and little outward expression as the charges were read. Aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, 2 counts of obstruction of justice, 2 counts of witness tampering, and the commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child.
Chaos erupted before anyone could fully process it. Tyler Robinson, 22, accused of killing Charlie Kirk, had been sitting quietly in his orange jumpsuit, cuffed to the table, eyes locked on the floor. The hearing had started routine. Lawyers trading motions, judges reviewing documents, reporters taking notes. But then, prosecutors revealed evidence that shattered the room. Surveillance footage showing Robinson handling the murder weapon, DNA confirming his prints and skin cells on the gun, and fibers directly linking him to Kirk's clothing.
Tyler Robinson, he just made his first court appearance since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and today prosecutors filing murder charges against the 22-year-old who they say confessed to the killing.
The tension was immediate. And within the tense environment, Robinson lunged for the exit with desperate force. One officer was struck, another dropped a radio. Marshals struggled to subdue him, but every second revealed a mix of panic, defiance, and something darker. The courtroom emptied under lockdown, leaving an eerie silence where violence had just ruled. Prosecutors explained the trigger. The evidence presented was not just damning, it was undeniable. DNA on the gun, fibers from Kirk's jacket, surveillance footage confirming deliberate handling, all exposed in real time in front of every camera and journalist. This wasn't theory, it was fact. And it hit Robinson harder than anything else in that courtroom. Defense lawyers called it psychological stress, an overwhelmed mind unable to bear the weight of new proof. Prosecutors framed it differently: raw, visible guilt, exposed in a single, explosive moment. His reaction wasn't just behavior, it was confession without words, a manifestation of everything the evidence demanded he confront. The forensic details were chilling. DNA confirmed direct contact with the weapon. Fibers tied him unmistakably to Kirk. Video showed methodical handling, movements that indicated premeditation. Every frame, every trace painted a portrait of a young man carefully executing a violent plan. And now exposed completely.
According to investigators, DNA evidence found on the rifle and a towel and screwdriver that was found in that wooded area by campus. But
witnesses spoke of speed and precision. 1 second he was seated, composed. The next, a hurricane of violence tore through the room. Officers described the struggle as both frantic and calculated, fear and defiance intertwined. The evidence had collapsed on him in a physical, psychological hammer blow. Every punch, every shove, every toppled chair revealed guilt too powerful to contain. Even after order was restored and the hearing postponed indefinitely, the courtroom's tension lingered. National headlines flashed images of the chaos. Robinson restrained, his torn jumpsuit, marshals bruised and shaken. Analysts debated. Why now? Why here? Why risk everything when legal strategy still existed?
Aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, 2 counts of obstruction of justice, 2 counts of witness tampering, and the commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child.
The courtroom outburst offered more insight than any testimony. Silence, hesitation, the sudden lunge. It spoke of a mind at the breaking point, proof colliding with denial, evidence clashing with instinct. For a moment, guilt became visible, undeniable. It was raw, unfiltered, terrifying. questions remain. Was this outburst pure panic, the final crack of a cornered conscience? Or something more sinister, a deliberate act of defiance, a message sent through violence? The forensic evidence tells one story, but behavior tells another. And the truth may lie somewhere in the terrifying overlap. Ideology, obsession, and guilt all crashing into a single violent moment. In that courtroom, seconds mattered. Every flap of papers, every shout, every toppled camera captured more than chaos. It captured the collision of fact and instinct. One young man, confronted with irrefutable evidence, became both spectacle and confession. The nation watched. The evidence remained. And the question lingered. Was this panic, guilt, or a glimpse into a mind already consumed by darkness?
In this moment, what's at stake?
Scott, I don't think it's hyperbole to say that the future of our country is at stake.
And this all started on September 10th, 2025. During a usual evening at Utah Valley University, over 800 students were packed into the auditorium with the energy of a high-profile speaker. Charlie Kirk took the stage, commanding attention with his voice carrying across the room, every word amplified through microphones and cameras. Then, without warning, chaos exploded. Gunshots ripped through the air, chairs toppled, students screamed, diving for cover. The sound of impact and panic echoed down every hallway. Kirk collapsed mid-sentence. Security personnel rushed forward, and for the next few minutes, what had been a routine campus event became pure terror. People later described the moment as surreal, like time fractured, stretching each second into a nightmare. Security footage from the evening revealed a detail that sent chills through investigators. Tyler Robinson, hoodie pulled low and gloves on, had approached restricted areas long before the first shot. Calm, methodical, almost invisible. Every movement calculated to avoid detection. While the crowd was distracted, and while the event buzzed with applause and anticipation, Robinson positioned himself perfectly. In that footage, authorities saw a young man with intent, every step deliberate. No one realized that the calm exterior concealed planning and premeditation on a scale that few could comprehend. How could a student, apparently ordinary on the surface, execute such a meticulously planned attack without raising suspicion? That question haunted law enforcement, parents, and students alike. The answer didn't emerge immediately, but every frame of surveillance hinted at preparation, timing, positioning, even the selection of equipment. It was clear. This was not spontaneous. Someone had studied the environment, calculated risks, and committed fully to carrying out violence in a public space.
I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering.
Within minutes, the university went into lockdown. Police scrambled, witnesses gave statements, and initial reports called it a shooting incident. But the picture grew darker by the hour. Names circulated, identities investigated, and a pattern began to emerge. Robinson had left behind more than panic. He had left clues, faint but detectable for those looking carefully enough to see them. The breakthrough came not from high-tech analysis, but from human instinct. Robinson confessed to a relative, a moment that triggered the next chain of events. His family, alarmed by the revelation, contacted Utah County Police immediately. What began as a private admission suddenly became a full-blown investigation. Officers traced leads, verified information, and began assembling the evidence that would eventually paint a complete portrait of a young man caught between ideology and impulse. The law enforcement response was swift and intense. Within hours, a 33-hour manhunt was underway. Roadblocks went up across Utah Valley.
Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
What came next turned the state upside down. His relative, panicked, trembling, told police something no one wanted to believe. Tyler confessed. He said they'll know soon enough. Within minutes, Utah County authorities launched a full-scale manhunt. Roadblocks went up on major highways. Drones swept canyons. Helicopters searched through the night. For 33 hours, there was nothing. No signal, no purchase, no trace.
Good morning, y'all. We have learned that Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin is being held in a separate unit here at the Utah County Jail and is under special watch to make sure he doesn't hurt himself.
And then he gets caught. He didn't fight. He didn't speak. He just dropped to his knees, hands raised. So what did he mean by that? What wasn't random? The victim, the message, or the movement behind it? Investigators froze the frame, the gait, the height, the backpack. It all fit. That man was later identified as Tyler Robinson, 22, from Orem, Utah. The shock hit hard. Robinson wasn't a stranger. He was a student. Quiet, polite, the kind of face you forget in a crowd. But why him? Why this night? And how did he get close enough to make the impossible happen? The arrest, though finally executed, didn't bring relief. Instead, it heightened tension. Every item recovered, every fiber, every word in those notes reinforced the methodical nature of the act. Investigators realized that what they were dealing with was not just a single event, but the manifestation of planning, obsession, and a dangerous ideology. Even in custody, Robinson's presence cast a shadow over the entire community. His calm demeanor during the arrest belied the chaos he had caused, and the duffel bag served as a grim reminder of what might have been. Analysts highlighted the precision with which Robinson carried out his actions, both during the shooting and in attempting to hide afterward. Even now, questions linger. The cryptic note remains a puzzle, a piece of a plan that might extend beyond what authorities have uncovered. Did Robinson act alone? Were there others inspired or involved? And most pressing of all, how much closer did he come to executing something even larger, had he not been intercepted? Every recovered item, every confession, every fiber, and every piece of surveillance is a reminder that planning and impulse can collide with devastating consequences.
Giovanna, we are learning a lot of new details about this investigation related to the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk that happened last week at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah.
After Robinson's arrest, investigators didn't waste a single second. They stormed his apartment, a small, unassuming unit that, at first glance, seemed harmless. But the moment they stepped inside, the air turned heavy with menace. Among the items recovered was a notebook boldly labeled Phase 1. Every page was filled with campus layouts, security camera angles, precise timings, and detailed escape routes. Meticulous planning that read like a military operation. Each line, each arrow, each note revealed a mind consumed by obsession, calculating with chilling precision. This wasn't a plan scribbled in panic. It was rehearsed, methodical, and ready to strike. Could any student really have gone this far without leaving a trace? Hidden among the papers were voice notes recorded on his phone, addressed to a partner Robinson identified as transgender. These were no idle messages. They were confessions, rants, and ideological manifestos, all rolled into one. Robinson spoke about Kirk, about the campus, about what he ominously called the Horizon Network. The very name sent shivers down investigators' spines. Was it a real organization, a secretive code, or a delusion engineered in isolation? Each word dripped with intent, purpose, and conviction. The messages weren't just obsessions. They were a blueprint, a roadmap for action. Was someone else involved, or was Robinson training himself for a lone crusade of violence? The FBI moved in immediately, and what they uncovered only deepened the alarm. Robinson's digital footprint sprawled across multiple platforms. Encrypted messages, private group chats, anonymous accounts. Each alias, each coded conversation hinted at coordination, or at least the potential for it. This wasn't a one-off attack. It could be the tip of a much larger network, a spark that could ignite something far deadlier if not stopped. Every discovery cranked up the urgency. The clock was ticking. Every hour wasted, every overlooked lead could give collaborators time to act. How many others were waiting in the shadows, ready to follow the same path? Every corner of the apartment screamed of obsession and intent. Sticky notes marked vantage points, photos documented escape routes, and scribbled calculations tracked timings to the minute. Robinson hadn't acted on impulse. He had layered his plan with contingencies, alternatives, and fail-safes. The depth of preparation wasn't just meticulous, it was dangerous. How could one young man think so carefully about committing such violence, and who had influenced him to do it? And the voice notes were worse. Each message, spoken calmly, hinted at a vision beyond the campus, an ideological mission that might extend far past what anyone had imagined. Investigators were forced to consider a terrifying possibility. Robinson's attack could be a single event in a series of coordinated actions. Was this the work of a lone extremist, or had he already laid the groundwork for more? Every discovery amplified the pressure. The FBI, local law enforcement, and federal analysts worked around the clock, tracing aliases, decoding messages, and mapping connections. Every detail mattered. Every encrypted chat, every seemingly trivial post could be a clue to prevent the next act of violence. And the question loomed large. How many others shared the same ideology, and were they watching, learning, waiting? As news of the apartment's contents leaked, the sense of urgency only spread. The nation watched, riveted and terrified. Headlines blared the meticulous Phase 1 notebook, the voice notes to a partner, and the possibility of a network lurking in the digital shadows. Every major outlet highlighted the same chilling reality. This wasn't just an isolated shooting. It was a warning of how ideology, obsession, and planning can collide into real-world chaos. The courtroom chaos, the carefully plotted apartment, and the cryptic online footprints all pointed to one unnerving truth. Robinson's actions were deliberate, but the full scope of danger was still unknown. Could authorities stop what might come next? Was there a wider network ready to strike? And most importantly, how many more were out there, preparing quietly, waiting for their moment? Time was no longer on anyone's side. Every hour counted, every connection traced, every alias uncovered, and every message decrypted could prevent the next disaster. The urgency wasn't just procedural, it was existential. The question hung in the air like a storm cloud. What had Robinson started, and who would answer the call before it was too late? The apartment itself read like a shrine to planning and obsession. Investigators treated every lead as immediate. Every account traced, every voice note decrypted, every alias examined became a potential lifeline to preventing further attacks. Time was critical, and the urgency was palpable. The same meticulous planning that had made Robinson so dangerous also provided investigators a roadmap, but one that required rapid action. A delay could mean missing critical warnings, leaving potential victims exposed.
State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. Could you state your name?
Tyler James Robinson.
This wasn't a story of a single arrest. It was a warning. The meticulous planning, the ideological obsession, the potential network. All of it demanded attention, rapid response, and vigilance. And while the nation watched, horrified and riveted, investigators knew that the clock was ticking. The risk was real, the threat tangible, and the consequences of delay potentially catastrophic. The question wasn't just what Robinson had done, it was what he, or someone like him, could do next. Every piece of recovered material painted a broader picture. This wasn't random. It wasn't careless. The notebooks, the voice notes, the encrypted accounts, each revealed a mind focused, organized, and potentially connected to a larger framework of extremism. Investigators warned that what they had uncovered might be only the beginning. Each clue demanded follow-up, each digital footprint required decryption, and every alias in the encrypted groups needed identification. It was a puzzle with real consequences, and the clock was ticking. And yet, even as authorities worked tirelessly, the nation watched, unsettled and intrigued. Headlines screamed of courtroom chaos, national threats, and ideological violence. But deeper questions lingered. Who else might be involved? How far did this network stretch? Could this have been prevented, or was it the first visible crack in a much larger problem? Political commentators debated, legal experts warned, and citizens wondered. Could ideology itself become the trigger for more bloodshed, if left unchecked? The apartment search and the political fallout combined to create a sense of urgency and dread. Robinson's actions had set off a chain reaction. From the shooting to the courtroom, from the duffel bag to the Phase 1 notebook, from private voice notes to encrypted online networks. Each step of the investigation exposed another layer of danger, obsession, and ideological fixation. And as experts scrambled to connect the dots, one haunting question remained at the center of every discussion. Who else is out there, waiting in the shadows? And how deep does this network really go?
That person speaking out that he got radicalized, and then you have to look at possibly how they have made a statement that they're looking to widen the investigation.
Psychologists brought in to assess him note an unusual mixture of detachment and obsession. Robinson doesn't lash out physically anymore, not yet, but there's a simmering intensity in his gaze. Court proceedings continue under this shadow of vigilance. The next hearing is planned with extreme precautions. Reinforced doors, multiple layers of marshals, cameras, and an emergency response team on standby. Lawyers debate evidence, procedural nuances, and mental health assessments. But the courtroom now carries an unspoken tension. Every eye in the room wonders not just about the verdict, but about Robinson himself. What drives a young man to such extremes? And what does he still hold in reserve? Even outside the courtroom, the ripples are felt nationwide. From politicians to ordinary citizens, there's a growing sense that this is more than a single tragedy. It's a reflection of a society grappling with ideological violence, radicalization, and the terrifying realization that one person's conviction can spark real-world consequences that cascade far beyond their immediate actions. Every news segment, every headline, and every social media debate reinforces the gravity. This isn't just a campus shooting or a courtroom fiasco. It's a glimpse into the fragile, combustible intersection of belief, obsession, and access to tools of harm.
State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. Could you state your name?
Tyler James Robinson.
Investigators and legal experts debate endlessly over Robinson's intentions and future behavior. Is this breakdown the product of guilt finally overwhelming him? Or is it merely a pause, a calm before the storm, as his mind processes both exposure and opportunity? There's no easy answer, and that uncertainty feeds both public fear and media fascination. The man who once quietly plotted violence now dominates the national conversation, his every action dissected, analyzed, and speculated upon. From Kirk's shooting to the courtroom explosion, from the arrest to Robinson's isolation, every moment reflects a nation at breaking point. Politics, law enforcement, public consciousness, all feel the shockwaves of a single act and a single individual's descent into obsession. The chain reaction doesn't stop at the courthouse. It extends into legislation, campus policies, online discourse, and collective anxiety. Each ripple brings more questions than answers. Each headline deepens the unease. And each analysis reminds the public that these events could repeat if left unexamined. At the center of it all is Robinson, a young man whose actions continue to cast long shadows. He embodies a terrifying mix of obsession, ideology, and meticulous preparation. His outburst in the courtroom, His planning of the shooting, his meticulous notebooks, and his whispered mantras in jail all point to a mind both fragile and dangerous. A mind that forces a society to confront its vulnerabilities. And while the legal system processes the evidence and arguments, the human and societal consequences remain immediate and raw. The story of Tyler Robinson isn't just about one man's crime. It's about ideology, opportunity, and the fragile line between thought and action. And as he waits under constant surveillance, every tick of the clock, every step of law enforcement, and every breath of public scrutiny carries the weight of a question that refuses to be answered lightly. Is Robinson's breakdown a symptom of guilt, or the calm before something far worse? Like this video and subscribe to the channel to get more updates.